Yeah, can you get rid of something for me? I'm on a Zoom. I'm sorry, what? I'm on a Zoom. I don't, what about it? What about? Can I get rid of this white thing and make it bigger?
That's a PowerPoint slide, probably not.
Okay, that's fine then. That's
Take us away. I'm going to hit it.
All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started.
Hang on, hang on.
Welcome to the Unhoused Project's webinar on the realities the unhoused population faces and the intergenerational stigmas we carry surrounding homelessness.
Our original goal with this project was to address what Sophie just covered through outreach on physical posters and later this webinar, but it's extended to our social media account and fundraising for certain organizations. We'll reference links to these at the end of our presentation if you'd like to donate. Now we'll quickly go over where we're from and what inspired us to choose this project. My name is Ella, and I am a senior from Lexington, Massachusetts, which is just outside of Boston. My passion to help people stemmed from my confusion around the stigmas since a young age.
My name is Sophie, and I am a junior from Fairfax, Virginia, and my passion for helping unhoused people started with making care packages for my synagogue.
We haven't referenced the organization we are doing this fellowship under in many of our resources, so we just wanted to explain what the RAC does. The RAC stands for the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism and is an organization that addresses a wide range of topics in the social action realm.
Plug it in.
They work to motivate and inspire the Reform Jewish movement to advocate and engage in social justice. They get teens like us involved through their Lataken Retreat, 6 fellowship programs, and statewide discussion programs. The Lataken Retreat allows you to travel to DC and spend a weekend learning about over 5 social justice topics to eventually write a speech and present it to your congressmen or state representatives. I have participated in the Lataken Retreat, so if anyone has questions, please let me know.
What is the RAC Teen Fellowship? This is the fellowship that Ella and I participated in this past spring. It sparked our project, and it is designed to help young Jewish teens learn how to advocate for social justice topics they are passionate about. We'd also like to give a shout out to Shoshana, who was one of our instructors during the fellowship, for being here tonight. Ella and I spent 7 weeks learning about gun violence through a Jewish lens and being educated on different strategies that will help us be more effective members of our communities. After the fellowship ended, we were instructed to pick a social justice topic that is important to us and create a project that will connect with people in our communities. And that is how we ended up here.
Lastly, what is the Unhoused Project? We are an initiative working to reduce the stigma around the unhoused population and ensure we bring dignity to these humans the best we can.
Even though the Teen Justice Fellowship guidelines only had us completing this webinar, Ella and I are going to continue with this project after today and into the future. And on that note, RAC asked us to reach out to involve 10 people. So naturally, we set our goal for higher than that and went with 20. And today, right before this, we've reached 56 people registered, which is almost 3 times our goal. So we'd like to thank all of you for helping us make that happen.
This is what we will be covering tonight within our session. Our first section will be discussing why we should say unhoused versus homeless when referring to someone. Next, we will display several statistical facts about the unhoused population. After that, we will talk about what people think causes homelessness versus the real causes.
And in the latter half of the session, about current anti-homeless practices and how they're harming the unhoused population. We will then discuss current legislation that is harmful and dangerous for unhoused people. Lastly, Ella and I will share different ways that you can donate or advocate to help your local community. Why are we saying unhoused?
I'm sure the name of our project has naturally spurred some confusion for several of you. So we wanted to address this by asking you guys what you think the different connotations of unhoused and homeless are. You can either type in chat or raise your hand and we'll call on you. It's completely okay to be wrong. Does anyone have any ideas?
Unhoused is free from bias. That's good.
Yeah,
Really
that's a great
similar to the Yeah, temporary. That's part of our definition as well.
point. Yeah, you guys did great. To just give an overall summary, saying someone is homeless has a negative connotation in the media and implies that someone is less than and that is a part of their person as a whole, and that they cause the issue themselves rather than it being a larger systemic problem. Using the word homelessness when referring to the concept rather than the individual person is completely okay. Referring to someone as unhoused acknowledges that there is a moral and social assumption that all people are deserving of housing inherently, regardless of their race, class, gender, or upbringing. It also identifies it as a temporary problem rather than an individual condition. Even we, who are working on this project and have put extensive research into this topic, still may slip up and say homeless or homeless person every now and then. We have all been conditioned to think and act in a manner that suppresses the unhoused population, but it is what we do moving forward that sets us apart from the stigmas. It is also important to note that unhoused means without a home, whether it be a house or apartment. An individual could still have a car or stay in a shelter temporarily. Now, here are the facts.
As of 2024, 771,480 people were living without housing in the United States.
And as of 2023, 150,000 children in the United States were unhoused. And of those who are unhoused, 50% were living without shelter.
That means no car, homeless shelter, or temporary housing. And in 2024, 4,922 citizens of BC were unhoused.
In Massachusetts, 19,141 people were living without housing, which was an increase of 67% from January 2023 to January 2024.
Over the course of this presentation, you will see us using DC and Boston as examples. We chose these two cities because they are local to both Ella and I, which makes it an effective example when showing these statistics. The percentage of unhoused individuals is only rising, with the population going up 12.1% over the course of a singular year.
In a report by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, 32,882 veterans were experiencing homeless in January of 2024. On the bright side, this number has decreased by 50% from 2009.
Every year, the Department of Housing and Urban Development reports to Congress the nationwide estimates of homelessness. Through this graph, we see that the total number of unhoused individuals has had a sharp spike in the past 3 years. Looking at the graph, it says sheltered homelessness versus unsheltered homelessness. When most people think of the unhoused population, sheltered is what comes to mind. This means sleeping in parks or man-made campsites that are not meant to be long-term sleeping arrangements, but unfortunately have to become them. While sheltered homelessness means temporarily living with family or in emergency shelters. Both of these have increased in recent years.
While this statistic is seemingly high, only 25% of the unhoused population having access to federally funded healthcare, that means that 75% don't. Unsheltered individuals, or even those living in vehicles, basements, etc., are much more susceptible to extreme weather events and diseases. These conditions put them in a position where they would have a higher need for healthcare, yet they don't have access to it. Because of this, we'd like to point out the discrepancy between the numbers 78 and 50. The average life expectancy for someone with housing is 78 years. That number drops by 28 years when you look at the unhoused population. This is directly influenced by lack of healthcare and safe housing. We've mentioned several times in our advertisements that we will be covering the real facts and realities of living without housing. So here they are.
I would like everyone to either raise their hand and unmute or type in the chat a misconception that you have heard about the unhoused population.
I think a lot of people think that homeless people are addicted to drugs. Is that a big?
Yeah. That's a very big misconception.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of like lazy mental health problems, drug problems. Yeah, definitely. Like a lot of people think that it's the person's fault or they cause the issue. Yeah, Sophie, do you want to say something? Yeah, you guys bring up a great point about it's their choice that they got there. It's definitely not their choice, and that's a great point to bring up. Yeah, they don't want to work. That's a really good one. Does anyone have anything else they want to add before we move on? All right, perfect. Yeah, you guys bring up a lot of great points. While drug addiction can be a cause of homelessness, it is not the leading or even secondary cause of why people are put into this situation. Many people, even Sophie and I, were conditioned by society to believe that every person struggling with homelessness must have a preconceived drug problem. And while it is true that many unhoused people develop addictions and drug use illnesses to cope with living in such harsh conditions, most of the time, drug addiction is not what puts them there.
This brings us into another common misconception. People struggling from being unhoused are dangerous. This is another one of the stigmas that we've all been conditioned to believe, that since unhoused people do not have a safe place to live, they must have done something violent to put them in their position.
Unhoused people are much more likely to be victim in the face of violence than the perpetrator. In fact, only about 11 to 14% of violent attacks in cities are perpetrated by unhoused people in California. In data we found from San Diego, which admittedly is close to neither one of us, but does have a high unhoused population, we saw horrific statistics. It showed that unhoused individuals face murder 19 times more often, attempted murder 27 times more often, assault 12 times more often, and sexual assault 9 times more often than those not experiencing homelessness. These numbers are absolutely outrageous, and Sophie and I have no words that can fully put that into perspective for you.
Now, on to the real facts.
Lack of affordable housing is the leading cause of homelessness, not drug addiction, mental illness, or laziness.
Unhoused people are simply trying to survive. They are not dangerous and are not looking to commit crimes. In fact, some unhoused individuals intentionally commit nonviolent crimes so that they will be taken off the street and given a place to sleep. One of the major reasons is the system. But what is that? The system is the lack of affordable housing. Without affordable housing, people become unhoused and are then discriminated against when trying to find jobs.
And because housing is so difficult to afford, unhoused individuals can never break out of this ever-going cycle. A large part of our goal is to define that being unhoused is a product of the system rather than a personal fault. Being born into homelessness or into immense poverty and abuse can put children and teens on the street without them doing anything wrong. In 2024, about 150,000 children were recorded to be experiencing homelessness. This is an increase of over 30,000, or 33% from 2023. This increase is the highest out of all marginal groups from that year. However, this number could be majorly undershot. Childhood daycares, schools, and agencies estimates are closer to 1.4 million children struggling with homelessness. Being a child or even teenager in homelessness makes it almost impossible to craft a future for yourself.
One comparison I saw when we were researching for this webinar was about the difference between you and an unhoused person. If you ever had a move back in with your parents phase after college, the only difference between you and an unhoused person is that you had the privilege of a support system to fall. And I thought that was a very interesting way to put things into perspective.
With this, we found 8% of undergraduate students are unhoused, along with 5% of graduate students. With while these percentages are seemingly low, this means that about 1 in 10 undergraduate and 1 in 20 graduate students do not have a safe home or dorm to lean on.
Now, how lacking is affordable housing? Minimum wage in DC is $17.95. This means if you're working a 40-hour work week with no vacation time, you will earn an average $3,231 per month. You might be thinking this pay is extremely reasonable compared to other areas. Average cost of rent in DC is $2,300 per month, with the average cost of living of $6,000, which means that someone living in DC earning minimum wage is making less than $4,000 less than what they need to truly survive.
Minimum wage in Boston is $15. This means working a 40-hour work week with no vacation time will earn you an average of $2,600 per month. The average cost of rent in Boston is $3,810. This means that someone would need to be making an extra $1,200 just to cover rent, not including food, transportation, and healthcare. A lot of people often bring up the question, why don't they just move and go to an area that's cheaper to live in? Well, metropolitan areas have much more job accessibility than small suburban areas. And it's important to recognize that a lot of people that are experiencing homelessness are parents, people with children that still have jobs but cannot afford to keep up with housing. However, the cost of living close to or in a city is much more expensive. In addition, transportation to and from these jobs cannot be done from a far distance without owning a car, consistently paying for a train pass, which all cost money.
Unhoused individuals often group in communities to support each other through the experience of living in tents or without shelter. And leaving that community is like leaving your family and those that you trust.
Centers that are focused on helping unhoused individuals are not extremely common and can sometimes be difficult to get into. Overall, moving is by no means an easy option. For individuals with disabilities, it might not even be an option to move or be accepted into a shelter. This number is extremely important because as of 2023, the National Institute of Health stated that over 50% of the unhoused population is either mentally or physically disabled.
Not to mention, moving is expensive, time consuming, and intimidating. Our next section will be on physical anti-homeless structures that are pointless and harmful.
On the far left picture, the architecture displayed is not only ruining the charm of the columns, but is also dangerous for any children who end up walking on the rails and tripping. It then ruins a place that unhoused people could use to sleep on.
In the middle picture, these benches were said to be built for those in wheelchairs to participate in the bench conversations. However, to point out the obvious, people who are in wheelchairs already have a place to sit.
Now, the far right is straight up insane, and it cannot even be referred to as a bench or even a place to sit for someone who is not unhoused. Anti-homeless architecture is reaching such a far point where it is anti-anyone architecture. Now, we will talk about laws that are being put in place right now that are affecting unhoused people.
Executive orders and Supreme Court rulings issued in the past year and a half have negatively impacted the unhoused by criminalizing them and attempting to get rid of them. An executive order issued in July prioritizes funding for states that treat homelessness like a crime and expands the use of police to respond to homelessness.
In June of 2024, the Supreme Court ruled that cities could decide if sleeping and resting in public places is legal. This gives so much power to individual cities who have extreme bias to their own beautification.
In addition, this summer, the president sent the National Guard into DC to clear homeless encampments with intention to beautify DC. Yet, it is only encouraging displacement and shuffling around unhoused individuals.
Moving around the unhoused will not get rid of homelessness. It will simply make their lives harder because they're being forced to learn how to survive in new environments and learning what is now safe for them to do.
Now we will have a short group discussion. Please read through these questions and pick any to speak out on first. Don't be shy. Or you can put it in the chat if that makes you more comfortable.
How to raise my hand, so I'll just jump in. I think one of the things that surprised me tonight was the statistics on the unhoused and how drug addiction is not really part of the main reasons for why they're unhoused.
Yeah, that's a really great point.
Yeah, we didn't, with the statistics on college students, we didn't know about that until we started researching for this webinar. A lot of this information that we gathered here was new to us as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw a couple people in the chat are saying that they're really surprised to hear the statistics on college students too. And then Amy said that she had no idea there was like a trend in architecture that's negatively impacting the unhoused. Yeah, it's going on everywhere. I think New York issued a ton of new like laws and bills to completely just all the benches are getting new railings in so that no one can lie down on them. It's a massive issue.
Shoshana, did you have something to add?
Yeah, y'all hear me? Okay, you hear me now. I really appreciated that you had mentioned about how the only difference between somebody moving back in with their parents and being homeless is their access and the privilege that they have and the access to resources. I think that is, something that we don't think about. And in a lot of our communities is like, yeah, I'll move back in with my parents to save money. And people don't really see how close that is to the experience of someone being unhoused if they don't have that privilege.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. I also saw Lisa put in the chat that she didn't expect the life expectancy to be just short of 3 decades. And honestly, when we were researching, we were astonished too. That's such a long amount of time to live life. And it's just really, really upsetting that that's where we are. And then Steve also mentioned that he was shocked by the extreme statistics on the unhoused being victims of crime. And honestly, we were researching that just a week ago, and we were honestly floored because the numbers are just absolutely insane.
Sophie said, change mindset, knowing that like not all unhoused people have committed crimes. In fact, the majority of them hasn't. That's a good way to switch your mindset.
Yeah, Adam, that's a really good point that there's a stigma because like from outward perspectives, it looks like a lot of majority people are mentally ill and drug addicted, but a lot of the time those are not like, I think we were talking earlier, like those are not the reasons that they get put in that position, but are often a major consequence of being in that position.
Yeah, these are all really great points. If there's nothing else, then we'll move on. Oh wait, there's more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, Susan. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of like situations people are in that aren't included in the statistics that are absolutely horrible.
All right, I think we're gonna move on then. Those were all really good perspectives. I appreciate you all sharing that with us. Now, how can you help? One way you can help is by reaching out to your congressman and urging them to support bills that you believe are important. This summer, I had the privilege of interning at the US Capitol. While I was there, I answered phone calls from constituents who voiced their concerns, and I then logged what they said so that the congressman I worked for would know what issues the people he represents are passionate about.
Here are 2 pieces of legislation that you guys as constituents can advocate for. The first is the End Veterans Homeless Act. This aims to benefit the Department of Housing and Urban Development and Department of Veteran Affairs, who work together to find permanent housing for homeless veterans in their housing voucher program. They intend to do this by requiring aid and case management, prioritizing the veterans' needs, and implementing reporting requirements for the Government Accountability Office. The Homeless Children and Youth Act would align the definition of homelessness to ensure that everyone can have access to the resources that they need. This is an example of what Susan mentioned about 2 families living together because they cannot afford 2 families that don't know each other living together. It will also improve local responses to prevent and end homelessness.
These 2 bills have little to no co-sponsors, which puts them at a disadvantage. Because they have no support, they will not be seen as a priority and most likely will not get voted on. These are 2 very important bills that Ella and I highly encourage you to reach out to your congressman about. On the screen, we have 2 links. If you're using a computer, you can either scan the QR code now or take a picture for later. We'll also include the links in the chat and in an email. The one on the left is a GoFundMe that will go directly to Project Outpour, an organization that is based in Charlotte, North Carolina, that provides mobile showers, toiletries, and clothing for the unhoused. The link on the right goes to an Amazon wish list that we will then transport to Facets, which is an organization in Northern Virginia that provides emergency relief for the unhoused.
There are a number of ways that we can all help the unhoused, and we have gathered a few of them for you here today. If you can donate, we would really appreciate it. But if you cannot, you still participated today and can spread the knowledge and wisdom you have learned. If you do donate, please let us know because we will feature you in a shout out section on our next post.
Once again, we really appreciate you all taking time out of your busy lives to join us tonight and learn about the unhoused community and how to help.
If you have any more questions, please feel free to stick around for a few minutes or send either one of us an email. If anyone isn't following our Instagram yet, it is on the screen. Please go follow to support the movement. Have a great night, guys. Yeah, of course.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, Suzanne, your point about the accurate statistics, that's one of the ones we pointed out about 150,000 unhoused children being recorded, but then it's more accurately 1.4 million. So that is definitely a factor of it.
Good job to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was really wonderful. I'm so glad I was able to join. Thanks, you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing up this topic. It's really important. And we live in a county that's so wealthy, and people don't necessarily want low-income housing next door to them. And those things need to be figured out to make sure that there's housing for everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you to both of you. Really well researched and passionate. So I applaud you for that. I just wanted to mention you brought up Lataken, which is the RAC program for high school students, but the RAC also runs a program for adults called Consultation on Conscience, which is coming up this December. Registration is online. It's a 3-day conference. It has a lot of similarities to Lataken, and I just wanted to inform folks about it. A few people from TBS have already registered, including myself.
That's really cool. We didn't know that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
This is also one of the issues that we've talked about in our SEDIC committee. So you're welcome to come to meetings and help us out to figure out ways that we can do some kinds of actions that'll make some difference, hopefully. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's great. If anyone wants to send us an email with some committees and stuff that people can use to get more involved, we'd love to post that on our Instagram or make some flyers with the information. I'll write down the SEDIC committee, though.
SEDIC committee. And the other thing, there's an organization called Jews United for Justice. And this housing is a huge, and especially housing in the Maryland and DC area, is a huge issue that they have been working on for several years now, actually. So you might want to look at that. So Jews United for Justice.
I feel like I remember coming across that just a little bit while we were researching, but I'll definitely look more into it.
We did not research that aspect of the unhoused, but that's really interesting. And thank you for sharing that with us. We did not know that.
Yeah, I think Amy, I've actually seen a bunch of I've seen multiple times how expensive it is to keep people in prison and in courts, and I have seen a couple of things talking about how that money could be displaced to many more important things like this. And I think I don't have a ton of research on it, so I couldn't give you a definite answer, but I've definitely seen that before. Thank you, Steve. That's such a nice comment. Sandy, we didn't research too much what was going on specifically in DC because we wanted to keep this webinar strictly to more like facts and not as much current events. But we'll definitely post some more current events on our Instagram, and we'll make some flyers and send out some emails with some more information on that.
Great,
thank you, Amy.
thanks.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Thank you so much for coming.